Can Red Bull Racing actually stop Max Verstappen from walking away penalty-free right now? His performance-linked exit clause has officially triggered and opened a negotiation window through October 2026. This is not speculative rumor or generic silly season noise. The specific contractual condition required him to be inside the top 2 at the summer break. That condition was definitively not met by the Hungarian Grand Prix. He sits roughly 110 points adrift of leader Kimi Antonelli. He is legally free to explore other options without financial consequence today. The tension here extends far beyond a simple contract dispute. German outlet Bild reported that Red Bull desperately tried to neutralize this threat. They allegedly offered a lucrative 1-year extension through 2029 with no exit clauses attached. Jos Verstappen publicly dismissed that exact claim on social media recently. He responded with the blunt phrase, "You know absolutely nothing." This creates a direct contradiction between what the team reportedly wants and what the drivers' camp acknowledges. So where does that leave the most dominant partnership in modern Formula 1? We are staring at a genuine standoff entering the second half of the 2026 season. Verstappen's management specifically demanded the safety net during his last renewal. They had long-standing apprehension about how these new regulations would perform. Those fears have materialized in the form of a winless first 11 rounds. The mechanism they built to protect him is doing exactly what it was designed to do. But here is the complication that nobody can quite resolve yet. His manager Raymond Vermeulen stated clearly that Max wants to finish his time with Red Bull. Vermeulen also said he would like to fulfill his contract until 2028, yet Verstappen himself has consistently refused to commit publicly to staying past this year. We have two completely different narratives coming from the same side of the negotiating table. Time is bleeding out. Options are narrowing. Silence speaks volumes. That gap between private loyalty and public hesitation is where the story actually lives. Understanding why requires looking at the sheer scale of the on-track collapse. A theoretical contract clause has turned into an immediate operational crisis for the team. Let us quickly recap the core conflict we have established so far. We have a confirmed contractual trigger activated by poor results and a disputed offer to fix it. The numbers behind this ultimatum are stark and unforgiving for everyone involved. Red Bull has failed to win a single race through the first 11 Grands Prix of 2026. This marks their first winless half-season since 2015 when Verstappen was still at Toro Rosso. He has managed 4 podiums and 109 points during this difficult stretch. However, that output sits in 6th place rather than the championship contention required to void his release option. Former Ferrari engineer Rob Smedley delivered a stinging mid-season assessment rating the team just 5 out of 10. He noted explicitly that there is a different problem every weekend for the squad. That technical instability directly feeds the contractual leverage Verstappen now holds over his employers. The RB22 suffers from chronic balance inconsistency that prevents any sustainable development path forward. Rob Smedley highlighted this specific flaw during his television analysis of the team's struggles. He explained that having a balance problem is one thing, but changing from lap to lap makes it very complicated. This is not merely about raw pace or engine power deficits relative to Mercedes or McLaren. It is about a fundamental lack of drivability that erodes driver confidence every single session. Verstappen has been brutally honest about this reality on team radio throughout 2026. He stated plainly that the car is undrivable and they never had anything this bad with everything together. Those words carry immense weight coming from a 3-time world champion. They also explain why the exit clause trigger was met so decisively at the summer break. You cannot compete for championships when your primary tool fights you constantly. Mechanical reliability has compounded these handling woes significantly across multiple events. A rear-wing failure during Hungarian qualifying raised serious safety flags for the entire operation. Verstappen described the situation as becoming dangerous for himself in that moment. Safety concerns add another layer of urgency to any potential departure decision he might make. The psychological toll of driving such a difficult machine cannot be overstated here. Verstappen admitted that every lap is honestly survival for him right now. He cannot push because the car simply does not let him extract performance safely. That level of frustration accumulates over 11 grueling races without victory. It transforms a performance clause from an insurance policy into an active escape route. Let us pause to consolidate what we know about the on-track catalyst. The car's flaws are verified by both telemetry data and direct driver testimony across multiple weekends. Red Bull's response to this public criticism reveals internal friction beneath the surface. Reports indicate the team cut back Verstappen's media appearances after his sharpest post, Hungary comments. Controlling the narrative becomes necessary when your star driver calls the package undrivable repeatedly, yet silencing him does not fix the underlying engineering problems plaguing the Ford Power Unit partnership. The new Red Bull powertrains operation was supposed to deliver independence and superiority in 2026. Instead, it has become a consistent weak point compared to rival manufacturers. This technological shortfall is precisely what his camp feared when negotiating protections years ago. Their long-standing apprehension about the regulation overhaul has proven entirely justified by results. The lighter chassis philosophy combined with complex hybrid systems created unforeseen integration challenges. Nobody anticipated such a dramatic fall from grace after years of total dominance. But contracts do not care about past glories or future potential development curves. They care about specific checkpoints and measurable outcomes at defined moments. The summer break checkpoint passed without meeting the required championship position threshold. October now looms as the final deadline for resolution before free agency begins. Could any other team actually capitalize on this unprecedented opportunity if he leaves? Sky Sports News reported that Verstappen's camp initiated contact with McLaren recently. Speculation about a 2027 move has grown steadily since the British Grand Prix weekend. Woking represents the most logical destination given their current competitive trajectory under Andrea Stella. Mercedes seems less likely according to several paddock analysts tracking the situation closely. Dutch commentator Ernst Kuipers has downplayed a Silver Arrow's move in recent assessments. No team has confirmed any deal or even formal negotiations at this stage. The silence from competing teams is deafening yet strategically understandable. Nobody wants to trigger legal retaliation from Red Bull before a contract is formally terminated. They are waiting for official confirmation that the penalty-free window is genuinely open. That confirmation depends entirely on interpreting private contractual language correctly. GP fans and F1 oversteer have led coverage with granular reporting on these mechanics. They cite sources familiar with the agreement rather than official documents. Contracts remain private by nature in Formula One unless leaked or disclosed voluntarily. This reliance on secondary sourcing creates inherent uncertainty in the timeline itself. The precise numeric details of the exit clause come from reports citing unnamed insiders rather than official FIA documentation. We must treat the October deadline as reported information until verified independently by all parties. Yet even disputed timelines exert real pressure on decision-makers operating under competitive stress. Red Bull knows the clock is ticking regardless of whether outsiders have the exact date correct. Internal deadlines matter more than public confirmation when negotiating with a frustrated champion. Here is the thing. Imagine being the team principal watching your championship hopes evaporate while simultaneously managing a contract crisis that could define the next decade of the sport. You are fighting fires on two completely different fronts with limited resources and diminishing returns. Every engineering meeting distracts from personnel strategy, and every contract discussion pulls focus from car development. This dual burden explains why performance has stagnated despite massive investment in new facilities. Crisis management consumes bandwidth that should be dedicated to innovation and testing. The organization is stretched thin precisely when it needs to be sharpest. Technical director Pierre Wache maintains publicly that winning a race before season end remains achievable. He cites an ongoing RB22 development program as evidence of continued commitment to improvement. But verbal targets mean little without corresponding lap time validation at circuits. The gap between aspiration and execution defines this painful transitional period for Milton Keynes. Verstappen recovered from 6th to finish 2nd in Hungary despite severe mechanical limitations. That drive demonstrated elite racecraft compensating for a fundamentally flawed package. Individual brilliance cannot mask systemic deficiencies forever, though. Championship mathematics make the deficit increasingly insurmountable as races dwindle. 110 points represents roughly 4 maximum score victories plus additional podiums. Overcoming such a margin requires near-perfect reliability combined with rival failure simultaneously. Neither condition appears probable given current form trends across the grid. Mercedes and McLaren show consistent pace advantages that Red Bull has failed to match consistently. The competitive hierarchy has inverted dramatically compared to previous seasons. Dominance has become vulnerability through technological misalignment with new rules. So where does this leave us regarding the ultimate outcome? We have established the contractual trigger, the disputed extension offer, and the verified on-track struggles creating this situation. The foundation for understanding this ultimatum is now complete. What remains is interpreting how these factors interact during the critical negotiation window ahead. Remember how this all started. We asked whether Red Bull could actually stop Verstappen from leaving penalty-free right now because his exit clause triggered when he finished outside the top 2 at the summer break. That specific contractual mechanism set everything else in motion. The answer depends less on legal technicalities and more on restoring competitive credibility quickly. No amount of salary increases can substitute for a winning car in elite motorsport. Drivers at this level prioritize machinery over money when championships remain attainable elsewhere. Red Bull understands this reality intimately, having built their dynasty around superior engineering. They must demonstrate tangible progress before October arrives or risk losing their cornerstone asset permanently. The stakes could not be higher for an organization accustomed to controlling its own destiny. Fan communities have seized upon Verstappen's survival quotes as emotional anchors for this narrative arc. Motorsport, Com, and TSN coverage emphasizes driver frustration over contractual minutiae extensively. This reflects broader audience sentiment that something fundamental has broken within the partnership. Trust erodes faster than lap times when communication breaks down publicly. Media restrictions imposed after Hungary suggest awareness of this reputational damage accumulating. Silence buys time but does not rebuild confidence internally or externally. The 2026 regulation overhaul was always going to reshuffle competitive hierarchies unpredictably. Nobody predicted Red Bull would fall so far so fast after years of preparation. Their in-house power unit transition coincided poorly with chassis philosophy changes, creating compound problems. Honda's departure after 2025 removed proven expertise during critical development phases. Ford's partnership promised American market synergy but delivered trackside headaches instead. Technological transitions carry risks that no amount of budget can fully eliminate. Verstappen clarified that they do not have tire degradation but rather car degradation. When balance problems change from lap to lap, it becomes very complicated to manage. This distinction separates mechanical failure from traditional setup optimization challenges. Engineers cannot solve unpredictability with standard adjustment strategies during sessions. He stated explicitly that he cannot even put a bit of reference in because every lap feels like survival. That admission reveals how deeply the RB22's flaws undermine basic driving rhythm. Confidence evaporates when feedback loops break down completely between driver and machine. Trust is gone. Data fails. Instability reigns. These three words capture the essence of his current experience behind the wheel. From lap 1 of these new regulations, he has not enjoyed this car for sure. Enjoyment matters more than many realize when evaluating long-term commitment decisions. Champions stay where they feel capable of extracting maximum performance consistently. Right now, that feeling exists only in fleeting moments rather than sustained periods. The gap between expectation and reality widens with each disappointing weekend result.